And you indicated that you performed an autopsy on an individual by the name of Martha West, or Marcy West in this case.
Yes.
What time did you first, or what date did you first examine the body?
The initial examination took place on January 10th.
Was that when her body arrived at the ME's office?
No.
And when did her body arrive?
I believe her body arrived at the medical examiner's office on January 8th.
Okay. And where would the body have been stored between the time that it arrived and the time that you conducted your autopsy?
Her body would have been in the medical examiner cooler within the office.
Is it unusual for a couple of days lapse between the time of the body's arrival and the time of the examination?
No.
And with regard to the first examination of her body on the 10th, what time of day was that approximately?
I believe we started about 10 a.m.
And how long did it go?
The autopsy, I believe, lasted about 2 hours. I believe we were wrapping up around noon on that day.
And what information did you have at that point?
The information that I had was limited to what the death investigator had collected while at the scene. I don't believe we had much more information from either law enforcement or other sources other than verbal reports from law enforcement.
Okay. So was it primarily based on the reported information from Mr. West?
Yes.
And what was your thought process with regard to the initial autopsy?
Can you be more specific?
What were you focused on ruling in or ruling out with regard to the initial autopsy?
In the beginning, when first presented with this death, one of the first concerns was whether or not she had a chronic seizure disorder or epilepsy. In folks with chronic seizures or epilepsy, particularly if they're not well controlled, those can result in death. So one of the first things I wanted to address was whether or not she was having chronic seizures or whether this was her very first seizure. So that question we were able to address very early. I don't remember exactly when, but fairly early within the death investigation process. Once we had established that she didn't have a chronic seizure disorder, but that we have a report of a seizure, then my next sort of questions I wanted to answer, and that I did answer, is to identify those things that can present as a first-time seizure in an adult. And there's a lot of other things that we are doing that I'm investigating and documenting, but that was because the seizure was such a prominent part of her dying process. That was at the top of the list.
And when you say it was part of her dying process, her reported dying process?
Yes.
Okay. And so were you able to determine whether or not you believed Marcy died from the seizure?
Yes.
And what was your conclusion?
So after performing the autopsy, I came to the conclusion that the seizure was not due to a primary brain lesion. So in an adult who has a seizure and dies, those are almost always from a catastrophic event in the brain, which are diagnosable at autopsy. And so after I had completed the autopsy and the examination of her brain, I had excluded all of those catastrophic things that could present as a first-time seizure in an adult.
When you say catastrophic things, what sorts of things are you referencing?
So those types of things are like a ruptured aneurysm. Different parts of the blood vessels in our brain can develop bubbles, little sacs that then rupture, and those, unfortunately, they're very hard to diagnose when a person is alive. But when they do rupture, they generally kill people. So that would be one. Arteriovenous malformations in the brain are another one where the bleeding can be so abrupt that it kills a person. They have a seizure and they die. Some other things would be tumors in the brain, blood clots that travel to the brain, infections of the brain can rarely present as a seizure followed by death. There's probably a few more I'm not thinking of, but they are generally catastrophic and easy to see once we open the brain.
And did you open the brain in this case?
Yes.
And did you see any of those catastrophic events?
No.
In your 25 years practicing as a forensic pathologist, have you ever had a person die of a first-time seizure without being able to identify what the catastrophic event is, or a brain lesion?
I don't recall that ever being the situation.
So when you've ruled out the seizure as the cause of her death, what are you looking at then?
So, we've excluded epilepsy, so chronic seizures. We've excluded catastrophic things in the brain, and so my next sort of area of inquiry or things I want to consider are things where there's a seizure, but the initiating process is outside of the brain. And another way to say that is that the person was dying from something else, but because of the dying process, had a seizure.
So would it be fair to say, in that case, that the seizure would more be a symptom of dying than the cause of dying?
Yes.
So what sorts of things do you look at to determine whether that occurred?
So when opening up sort of that avenue of inquiry, the causes and the mechanisms are incredibly broad. And they generally originate outside of the brain. They can be any part of our body that malfunctions enough, our heart, our lungs, liver, kidneys, if it becomes very severe, can result in a seizure. So it's a very broad area of inquiry.
Okay. Were you able to find any process beyond the injuries that we'll discuss later that could have caused that seizure?
No.
At the conclusion of the first examination, were you prepared to give an opinion on cause and manner of death?
No.
Were you prepared to call it suspicious?
No.
Why not?
At the end of the first day, I did not make any observations, and I didn't have any information to suggest that this was anything other than a natural death, and I just needed to find the answer.
Now, did something occur that caused you to want to look at the body again? Well, let me back up. So shortly after you finished examination day 1, what happened to the body?
So we finished the exam around noon on the 10th. Her body was released to the funeral home that afternoon, I think around 2:45, 2:50 in the afternoon was when her body was released to the funeral home.
Who needs to make those funeral home arrangements?
The family, the legal next of kin.
Okay, so it's not the medical examiner's office calling the funeral home saying, come get the body?
Not usually, no.
So the body leaves around 2:15?
2:45, 2:50.
Okay. And did Marcy's body ever make it off the van at the funeral home?
No.
Okay. Did the driver bring the body back?
Yes.
Okay. How long was the body gone for in total?
Her body was in transport for about, I think, 25 to 30 minutes.
And is it common for the body to have left that soon?
Not necessarily, no.
Do you have any concerns that the van ride caused any of the injuries that you ultimately documented?
I have no concerns, no.
Why not?
The way bodies are packaged and prepared for transport generally does not allow for any movement of the body, barring a major collision. There's that, but also after the autopsy, almost all of the blood has been drained from the body, and so even if there was blunt impact or any sort of impact with the body, there would not be a lesion that looks like it occurred before death. It will have a very different appearance.
And so the body came back. When did you conduct the second examination of Marcy's body?
The second exam was the following day, so that would have been the 11th, and I believe, again, we started around 9 or 10 in the morning.
And were you able to see things in the second evaluation that you weren't able to see or fully appreciate on the first?
Yes.
And why was that?
On the first day, that when we did the initial examination of her body, she had, like many people do, very dense lividity, or that pink, deep purple discoloration. That made it very challenging to see a lot of the lesions I later identified on her head and neck. Then the next day, because a lot of that blood had been drained, those areas became more prominent visually.
All right, I'm showing you what has been marked for identification purposes as P99. What's that?
This is a composite of two images of the left side of her face. The bottom image is from the first examination. The top image is from the second examination.
And what does it demonstrate?
The two photographs demonstrate the change in lividity, most importantly, and then and as a result of that, the distinctive appearance of some lesions.
Is it a true and accurate depiction of the left side of Marcy's face as it appeared during the first examination and then in the second examination?
Yes.
Move to admit P99.
No objection. P99.
P99. All right, showing you P100.
Council, we don't use P and D, we use numbers. So. Exhibit is number 100.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. This is Exhibit 100. What are we looking at?
This is a composite of images from the right side of the face with the top image from the first day and the bottom 2 from the second day.
And again, does this show the difference in lividity?
Yes, it does.
True and accurate depiction of how she appeared on both the first day of the examination and the second day of the examination?
Yes.
On the right side of her face?
Yes.
Move to admit 100.
No objection. 100 is
Move to publish.
granted.
All right, Dr. Burt, so this image that we're looking at on the left-hand side as we stare at the screen, would this have been from day 1 or day 2?
That is from the first day.
Okay. And this image on the right-hand side of the screen?
That one is from the second day.
Okay. And when you say the difference in lividity, is that this red discoloration on the left side of the screen?
On the cheek, it's red. On the portion of her neck there, it's a red to almost a purple.
Okay. And that had dissipated to some extent on day 2?
Yes.
And the exhibit number comes?
99.
99 you're on? 100. And then 100 next. All right, Dr. Burke, so this photograph on the upper left-hand side as we stare at the screen, is that day 1 or day 2?
That is from the first day.
Okay. And on the right-hand side of the upper right-hand side of the screen?
That's from the second day.
And the bottom?
Yes, that one is also from the second day.
Okay. And again, does it depict less lividity on day 2?
Yes.
All right. So you're able to see external injuries better than on the second day?
Yes.
Is that accurate? Okay. And can you describe the difference between the first examination and the second examination with regard to the internal structures of the neck?
Are you asking about the procedures I did?
Yes.
Okay. So on the first day, I did a very standard autopsy. That involves examining the structures of the mouth and the neck. In order to do that, what we have to do is take the skin from the chest and it's called reflecting, where we take the skin, we don't remove it, but we open it so that we can see the neck and the base of the tongue and the salivary glands. So on the first day, we removed what's called the neck block. It consists of the tongue, the larynx, and the esophagus. So that all was removed and examined on the first day. On the second day, what I did was I opened the skin between the bottom of the dermis and the adipose tissue, the fat layer. So we all have a layer of fat that's sort of our cushioning between our skin and our other structures. And so typically, normally in a normal autopsy, those two come up together. But what I wanted to do was to look between the skin and the fat. So I opened that and looked at it. After I did that, then then we went back to what we had done the day before, which is to document all the changes in her neck and to photograph them and measure them.
Was there additional dissection of the neck?
A little bit. So the additional dissection involved taking this skin flap piece. Normally we stop right below the jawbone. In order to photograph the under the jawbone, I took it up just to the edge of the jaw so that we could photograph this part. And then after that, we don't normally open the carotid sheath, but I opened the carotid sheath as well along its length.
Okay. And why is it that you don't normally take the skin up above the chin?
The reason we don't do that is we run the risk of damaging structures that the funeral home will use to prepare the body for a viewing. And so there's a balance that we try to maintain in seeing as much as possible, but also not impeding a viewing for the loved ones.
And so when you took the skin up above the jaw, did that make it easier for you to visualize some of the internal injuries?
Yes.
And can you describe the difference between the first examination and the second examination with regard to the back of the head and scalp?
Yes. On the first day, I observed a bruise on the back of her head on the left side that was over the bone. There's a bit of bone that's a little bit of a, I'm going to call it a nodule, but prominence. So I noticed a bruise there. On that first day, I stopped. I did not examine that further, so I stopped with the dissection right at the base of the skull. On the second day, again, we call it reflecting the skin. So I extended the incisions down the back of the neck, and I traced this bruise as far down as it went, which was down onto the neck part, not the skull part.
So starting with your external examination findings, did you observe any injuries to Marcy's head or neck externally?
Yes.
What did you see?
So the injuries that I observed were some petechiae, little tiny areas of hemorrhage, in her eyes, on her cheeks, and on her neck. Behind both of her ears were bruises, contusions, and then on both sides of her neck, in addition to some very small areas of petechiae, were very faint bruises.
Can you describe the bruising that you observed behind the ears?
The bruising behind her ears was in this place that has a couple of different names. It's where the earlobe meets the jaw, right in front of the skull. So it's this depression behind the earlobes, right next to the jawbone. A lot of people are familiar with TMJ, so just right in that depression is where those were. On the right side The bruise was a deep purple, and it had these very tiny areas where the skin had been rubbed off. On the left side, the bruise was a deep purple color. It was smaller than the one on the right, and it didn't have any of that, the rubbing characteristics that the right side had.
Can you describe where the mastoid region is generally anatomically?
Yeah. So the mastoid region is in that same area. The mastoid region is this bony area behind the ear, what we call the helix, the ear helix, this bony region. So that's the mastoid region.
Is that region behind the ear have a lot of blood vessels? Doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And is bruising behind both ears a common accidental injury?
I will say bleeding behind the ears, both from bruising or from blood leaking, does show up behind the ears.
But is it at a place where people typically would have an accidental injury?
It's a relatively uncommon place to have an accidental injury.
Is it something that could have been caused by CPR or chest compressions?
No.
Objection, no foundation.
All right. So, show you. Dr. Burt, I'm showing you what has been marked as 151, an illustrative exhibit. What is that?
This is an anatomic diagram rendering of the left side of the head without the skin. So the blood vessels and the muscles are identifiable.
In understanding that it is an illustration, is it generally anatomically accurate?
Yes.
We would admit for illustrative purposes 151.
No objection. All right, 151 is admitted for illustrative purposes. When an exhibit's admitted for illustrative purposes, it's used to provide witness during their testimony. It does not go back with you to the jury.
All right, and then I'm going to show you 119 through 121 inclusive. Can you take a look at those?
These are photographs from the examination on the second day of Marcy's, the right and left sides of her head about her ears.
Are they true and accurate depictions of the areas on Marcy's ears during the autopsy?
Yes.
We should admit 119 through 121.
No objection. 119 through 121.
Yes, thanks. Okay. So, this is what is an illustrative exhibit. Let's see, 51. So, can you describe for the jury what it is that we're looking at here?
This is a view of the left side of the head, with the left ear, and the face is a little bit out of our view. Most of what's visible is the back side of the head in this image.
And now, is it possible for jugular compression to result in bilateral bruising behind the ears?
Yes.
Can you explain that process for the jury using this study?
The jugular vein is the vein that drains the head. When the jugular vein is compressed, blood will collect in the veins that are uphill from it. If the pressure gets high enough, blood vessels can rupture. Or they can just become very dilated. And then when we look at it from the skin surface, it looks like bruising behind the ear, because there's a number of veins that drain from this side of the head into the jugular vein. So although we call it bruising, it looks like bruising, but it's not necessarily from blunt trauma. It can be from the blood vessels just being really, really congested and then leaking. So that's how compression of the jugular vein can create the appearance of an injury in that part of the head.
And can bruising behind the ears also be caused by directed trauma from the outside?
Yes.
How is that?
Bruising in this specific location behind the ears and on the sides of the head can be from skull fractures in very specific locations where the blood then travels from those fractures to this area. There's very little fat tissue and muscle tissue, and so any blood that collects there is really easy to see. And so with skull fractures in certain areas, bruising right there can be one of the first indications of a fracture before the person makes it to a CT scan or an MRI scan.
Can it also just be from like some sort of hard force?
Yes, it can also be from just a traditional impact that ruptures blood vessels.
So it could have an internal or an external cause, or both?
Yes.
Okay. We go to the first photo. So are we looking at the right or left side of Marcy's head in this photo?
This is the left side.
The exhibit number?
Apologies, Your Honor.
119.
119. Okay. And what do we see in this particular photo?
The two lesions that I documented were a linear pattern of petechiae in front of the ear there.
Is that what I'm pointing to?
Yes. That line of petechiae there. And then some very tiny bruises just below the earlobe there, yes.
Am I pointing to the correct place?
Yes, those are the bruises, yes.
Okay. And if we could go then to 120. Right, is this that same ear?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and what are we looking at?
So this is with the earlobe and the ear helix pushed forward so that that area behind the earlobe is visible, and there's that dense purplish blue discoloration, which is a bruise.
And that's what we're looking at?
Yes, that is it.
Is this the same mark that we saw below her ear in 119?
Yes,
And again, this is the left side of her head?
yes.
And you go to 121. Right. Is this Marcy's other ear?
Yes, it is.
So the right side of her head?
Yes.
And what are we looking at here?
So this is that area behind her earlobe that's demonstrating that purplish blue bruise, and then the very tiny areas where the skin has been rubbed off. Yes, those. Also, in front of her earlobe are two red spots. Those are petechiae there.
Is that the here and here?
Yes.
And again, it's your opinion that these are abrasions?
Some of those are abrasions. Some of those are just deeper colored bruises. So towards the tip of her earlobe, those are bruises, whereas if you go down and backwards, that's an abrasion where the skin has been rubbed off.
So do you have an opinion about whether this particular constellation of injuries resulted from internal injuries, external injuries, or both?
Whew. I believe the bruising is from an external injury. The petechial hemorrhages are more challenging. They are in a distribution that could be from local compression of the blood vessels, but they could also be from increased pressure in the blood vessel distant from that caused them to rupture.
Right, and we've talked a lot about petechiae. Did you observe petechiae in Marcy?
Yes.
And what is petechiae?
Petechiae is a word to describe an area of hemorrhage that is tiny. Different textbooks have different definitions. In general, it's an area of hemorrhage that is less than 3 millimeters. The term petechiae does not necessarily tell you how it came about, just that it is an area of hemorrhage. But in general, petechiae happen when there is enough pressure inside the blood vessel to cause it to rupture, and then blood leaks out.
And how do you determine whether a spot is petechiae versus a normal skin imperfection?
Most red skin imperfections are clusters of blood vessels that are just visible from the skin surface. And so the easiest way to differentiate the two is to push on the area of redness. If it's a skin imperfection from a cluster of blood vessels, they will generally blanch, or the blood will the blood will squeeze out, and then it will refill again. Because it's in the blood vessels, it can move. Whereas a petechia is blood that has leaked into the tissues, and by pushing on it, you're not going to change where the blood is. So that's the easiest way to tell the difference.
Okay. And what causes petechiae?
So petechiae result from the rupture of blood vessels. Every bruise is rupture of blood vessels, and blood leaks out. Petechiae are just the super tiny blood vessels that rupture by themselves, and then we can see them as little tiny dots.
what does petechiae indicate to you, generally speaking?
In general, petechiae mean there's been an increase in the pressure in the blood vessel. That's what they mean.
Now, on Marcy, was there a lot of petechiae, or was it more limited?
I would say it was very limited.
And are petechiae present in every strangulation death?
No.
Can petechiae be limited or even absent in some forms of neck compression?
Yes.
Can petechiae also be caused in other ways,
Yes.
including vomiting?
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that it's corroborative of a strangulation event, but not necessarily conclusive on its own?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Burt, handing you 99 and 101 through 116. Take a look at those for me.
I do. These are images from the second day of examinations at the outside of Marcy's body.
And with the exclusion of the first image, which is 98,
Yes.
Do those images depict what you observed as far as petechiae?
Yes, they do.
And are they true and accurate photographs?
Yes.
Right. This time move to admit 98 and 101 through 116.
16. Do you have any objection to any of the
I've
documents?
got the 106 and 113.
On what basis?
They're altered photographs. They do not, they're not original photographs. They've been altered.
I can
Okay,
ask.
98 and 101 through 105, and the other images up to 115 except 113 are omitted.
All right. What is this that we're looking at here?
This is a photograph taken during the examination of one of her eyes. We don't always take our photographs so that they're easy for other people to orient. So for everyone in the room, that is upside down.
Okay. So, all right. So, where I'm pointing here at the base of the photograph, that would be the top of her head.
That's correct.
And this is where her chest is, correct?
Yes.
On the top?
Yes.
Okay. Generally speaking, with regard to these measuring devices, are they oriented so the writing the top of the writing is facing the top of the head?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this would be her left eye, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you see in this eye?
So in this image, at the lateral part of her eye is a very small red area.
Is that where I'm pointing here?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you believe that is?
That is most consistent with a petechial hemorrhage.
And 102. All right, again, we're upside down. So top of her head is here at the base,
Yes.
correct? And this is her mouth at the top?
Yes.
Okay. And what is this a photograph of?
This is a photograph of the inside of her upper eyelid. And there's a very dark, almost linear looking area of hemorrhage on the inside of the eyelid.
Okay, is that where I'm pointing here?
Yes.
And what do you believe that is?
It's hemorrhage, and it's surrounded by tiny hemorrhages, which would be petechiae. That's large enough that we wouldn't call it a petechial hemorrhage, but it is hemorrhage.
Do you have an opinion on what the cause of this hemorrhage is?
Only in very general terms.
What are the general?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
So an area of hemorrhage on the inside of the eyelid of that size and shape is most consistent with a blunt impact to that region.
Okay. And then you indicated it was surrounded by petechiae?
Yes.
All right, 103. All right, what are we looking at here?
This is the right ear and the part of the cheek that's just in front of the right ear. So we have the earlobe that's visible in the ear canal. And then just in front of that are two red dots, and those are petechiae.
Is that where I'm pointing here?
Yes.
Okay. And 104. Is this just a closer view of those two petechiae dots in front of her right ear?
Yes.
All right, 105. Okay. What are we looking at here?
This is the right side of the lower part of her face and the right side of her neck. And the ruler is framing a oval, crescent-shaped, roughly crescent-shaped area of petechial hemorrhages.
Is that what this is here?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else noteworthy on this particular image?
There are other petechial hemorrhages that are a bit washed out in this photograph, but on the right side of her jawline is a very small cluster.
Is that
Yes, in that region, yes.
okay? And then these are the two that we previously identified in front of her ear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, these are somewhat faint. Did you put or develop another slide with black dots placed on what you observed to be the petechiae?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm showing what has been admitted for illustrative purposes only, 106. Okay. So is this a copy of the same photograph we just looked at,
Yes.
which is 105? And these black dots that are here, did you place those?
Yes, I did.
And are those placed on top of what you identified as petechiae?
Yes.
Okay. So, specific to this region here, on the neck, do you find any significance to the formation of the petechiae?
I can say that it is consistent with and not consistent with certain things,
Okay.
but I can't tell you exactly what it is.
Would it be consistent with a finger?
Yes.
Okay. And is it placed, where is the location of this particular crescent-shaped cluster of petechiae?
That particular distribution is at the anterior edge, so the front edge of the big muscle that comes down the side of the neck. So it is just in front of that muscle on the side of the neck.
And did you identify a hemorrhage in this particular location?
Yes.
And was that the hemorrhage to the carotid sheath on the right side?
Yes.
Okay. Now, petechiae can be developed by restricting blood flow, correct?
Yes.
Can it also be from direct pressure?
Yes.
And let's see, move on to. It's got a little bit out of order here. Okay. All right, moving on to 107. All right. Which side of Marcy's face is this?
This is the left side.
And do you see anything noteworthy in this particular photograph?
In this photograph, although very faint, there is a linear distribution of petechial hemorrhages just in front of her left ear.
Is that by pointing here?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any significance about this formation of petechiae?
Yes.
And what is that?
The distribution suggests that the skin was pinched in that area to create a linear distribution of injury.
Now, if petechiae had developed from, say, vomiting, would you expect for it to develop in this particular formation?
No.
What sort of formations would you expect to see?
With vomiting or sneezing, what I would expect to see is a generalized distribution of petechiae across the face. In those situations, the petechiae are easiest to see around the eyes and on the eyeballs, but they can be across the cheeks or down the neck.
Okay. But they're generally more dispersed and generalized?
Yes.
.108. All right, is this just a closer view of those same linear petechiae?
Yes.
On the left-hand side?
Yes.
All right, what are we looking at here?
This is the inferior surface of the left earlobe, where there's two small red dots.
Is that here and here?
Yes.
And what do you believe those are?
Those are most consistent with petechial hemorrhages.
Any significance to the location of those?
Not specifically, no.
All right, showing 110. All right, so we're still looking at the left side of Marcy's face, correct?
Yes.
And this is the linear formation of the petechiae here?
Yes.
And what is this here?
That is a small cluster of bruises that are just below the left earlobe.
What, 11? All right, what are we looking at here?
This is the left side of her neck. For reference, her left ear is at the bottom right corner, and then her jawline, I know it's really hard to appreciate, but it would be diagonally across that. Yes.
Like that?
No.
Okay.
It would go from the corner of the ruler
Uh-huh.
more towards her ear canal. So,
So from here, like this?
yes, that would be her jawline.
Okay. And is there anything significant on this particular photograph?
Yes, on the part of her neck that's closest to the 2 and 3, there's a very faint bluish contusion, so bruise, and within that is a cluster of petechial hemorrhages.
And where is the location of this bruise? Could you just show the jury on yourself?
Yeah, so this is on the left side. So it's, again, in front of this large muscle right here, just in front of it, and then below the ear.
And is the location of this bruise over the carotid artery?
Yes.
.112. All right, so in this particular photo, we have the same linear pattern of the petechiae, contusion that we just talked about, bruise. Is there anything in addition to those two things in this particular photograph?
Yes.
And what is that?
A little bit lower and more towards the front of her neck is a cluster, another linear cluster of petechiae that's a little bit on a diagonal orientation. Yes.
Is that where I'm pointing here?
Yes.
Okay. Do you find any significance to the pattern of that portion of the petechiae?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. All right, now, 113, is this another situation where you put black dots over what you observe to be the petechiae
Yes.
to make it easier to see?
Yes.
And publishing 113, which has been admitted for illustrative purposes only. All right, so in 113, we have the black dots. Is that what you observe to be the petechiae just next to her ear?
Yes.
And then down here, lower, that's the linear pattern of petechiae on her neck.
Yes.
And then this here was the bruise.
Yes.
Anything else that's noteworthy about this particular photo?
No.
Right, 114. Is this a close-up version of that linear pattern of petechiae on her neck?
Yes.
All right, 115. What are we looking at here?
This is the left side of her cheek and the part of her chin just below her lower lip. There's a red, pinkish red area of skin discoloration with, yes, that also had a bit of a rough or flaky texture to it.
And what did you determine the likely cause of this was?
That is most consistent with a very minor superficial skin infection, sometimes referred to as impetigo.
So we don't necessarily think this is related, this isn't indicative of any sort of a strangulation event or trauma.
No.
And 160. Right. What are we looking at here?
This is the inside of her scalp. So in order to remove the brain, we have to invert the scalp. So this is the part of the scalp that sits right next to the skull. And in this image of the inside of her scalp are a number of deep red, pink to deep red spots.
And what is the significance of those to you?
These are hard to assign significance because this type of change is common in a lot of different types of death. So it is not unusual when a person dies for their scalp to become very congested and to look like this. But it can also be indicative of blood that has pooled in the head for other reasons.